sex, style, power, passion, and lots of horsepower. Welcome to the world of the $1 million motor. Cars in an elite club. These are some of the most exclusive and expensive ever made. For pure power, there's the McLaren F1, the fastest supercar ever built. For muscle, the Ford GT, inspired by the classic GT40. For the executive on the move, the Mercedes Maybach. Then the Ferrari Enzo, so exclusive you have to be invited to buy one. There's the majestic styling of the Cadillac 16. The dazzling speed of the all-American Celine, a racing car designed for everyday roads. And the ultimate in style and luxury, the Rolls-Royce Phantom. These cars are the epitome of power and wealth. So desirable that some people are willing to spend over $1 million to own one. Ever since the first car rolled from a production line, it has been more than just a means of transport. For 100 years, cars have symbolized freedom, style, and all-important social status. For most owners, they represent a fairly hefty investment, but some people will buy cars that cost more than 50 times the price of an average family saloon. One such vehicle is the McLaren F1, the first road car ever to cost $1 million brand new.
From a very young age, was enthralled with cars. My parents bought me a car bed that looked just like a race car, and I've always loved cars, had posters of cars, and dreamt about cars, and had cars as my goal. When I was in my very early 20s, I bought my first Ferrari, and it was a great thing for me. It was something that I had set out to do when I was very young and just kept working towards that goal.
Over the years, technology entrepreneur Dan Kennedy has built up an extraordinary collection of marque, but there was one car that eluded him, the McLaren F1.
When I went out kind of hunting for the greatest car on the planet, the fastest, the best looking, and the most sexy, it all came back that it was the McLaren.
The McLaren was created using techniques developed for Formula One racing cars. The chassis was built using a carbon fiber shell and is the strongest ever made.
Well, there's no question that when the McLaren was designed, that the only thing on the mind of the designers were to create the ultimate sports car. It wasn't about how to save money, it was about how to save weight. It wasn't how to make it look great, it was about how to make it go fast. And what ended up happening was a great-looking car that's very unique in every aspect, but able to go at speeds and handle like no other car on the planet. The car can accelerate like nothing else in the world. 40, 60.
It has a top speed of 386 kilometers, 240 miles per hour, and acceleration of 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.2 seconds.
The raw power that you've got in this car is unbelievable. Having 627 horsepower at your command is awe-inspiring. Being able to handle the kind of cornering, the kind of speeds that this car can handle is like no other car on the road. I've driven dozens of different types of sports car, and nothing in the world drives like a McLaren.
The F1's 12-cylinder engine generates 627 horsepower. The car is built from strong, lightweight materials, carbon fiber, magnesium, and aluminium, and weighs just 2,500 pounds, or 1,138 kilograms.
My favorite feature of this car is the center seating position. It allows you to feel the car evenly in left turns and right turns. As well, it allows you to sit as far forward as possible so you can get the absolute best feeling for what this car is doing.
Cars are the ultimate men's toy. I mean, you think about it, even when we were boys, we loved cars and wagons and scooters and motorcycles and anything with a motor that made noise and moved. Well, these are the same people that they were then. They just have a lot of money. And so expensive cars are the ultimate expression of that passion.
I wanted cars that really made a statement about who I am, about what I love, about my passion for vehicles. Something that stood out in a crowd that just said, you know, I'm a unique person, I drive a unique car.
The McLaren F1 was the original $1 million motor car, and I mean, that really took all of us in the industry aback when that car came out, thinking, my goodness, here's an exotic sports car that's going to cost $1 million brand new, uncharted territory. Today, they're extremely prized and still worth every penny of that $1 million.
Having already shelled out $1 million, Dan set about spending even more to customize his F1.
This car's had extensive modifications to it. It's got an upgraded radiator set. It's got larger air conditioning unit. It's got a Formula One removable steering wheel. It has navigation system. It's got two-way radio. It's got an intercom system with noise-canceling headsets. It has a 160 gig MP3 player with over 20,000 songs online. It's got just about every toy that a boy would want. There's no question that there are times when I'm sitting at home or sitting at the office that I need to kind of blow off some steam, that you get behind the wheel of a car like this and changes your perspective real quick on things. If I had to pick one car to drive out of all the cars I have, it would repeatedly be the McLaren. This is the kind of car that every little kid dreams about.
I think the $1 million car is, first of all, a statement of power. For some, it can be a statement of sexuality, but it definitely draws a dividing line between the haves and the have-nots. It's an abbreviated way of saying, I'm rich. If you can afford a car for $200,000 or $300,000, there's more to come.
McLaren was well out in front with its supercar, but it wouldn't take Ford long to catch up. The McLaren F1 blazed the trail, but others soon followed. Car companies suddenly realized the value of producing a top-of-the-range exotic supercar.
You're sitting there at a light, and you go, wow, my car looks better than yours, it goes faster than yours, it handles better than yours, and it's based on one of the greatest racing cars of all time, the GT40.
The GT40 is one of the most famous racing cars ever made. One of these classics now costs over $1 million. Now, would-be owners have another chance to enjoy the GT experience. The Ford Motor Company has launched a new version of the classic GT40. The Ford GT. It was created on the drawing board of Camilo Pardo, project designer at Ford's Detroit headquarters.
I was told by my instructor in college a long time ago that you shouldn't fall in love with your designs. But I think with this car, there's been some exceptions. I really, you know, this car is very special to me, and we didn't stop until we were very happy with the shape. We didn't stop refining the shape until we were completely satisfied.
The car he's designed is a modern 21st century supercar, but it incorporates the heritage of the original racing car.
I was born in '63. The first GT40 was rolled out in the courtyard in '63. By '66, it was winning Le Mans, and by '70, I was already drawing. The vehicles on the street in the late 60s and the early 70s are the vehicles that influenced me. Those cars had some very exciting shapes. So that was, I think it was quite intriguing. It so happens that these days you see a lot of influences from the 60s and 70s in furniture, new furniture and architecture and fashion. So this car kind of landed at the perfect time when everyone is enjoying a lot of this classic heritage in design. It was very much a car that I've always wanted to do, and it was like designing a car that I wanted, you know, for myself, and how would I want the vehicle to be, and that opportunity is very rare.
The car evolved from Camillo's initial drawings into a clay model, and finally to this, the first prototype.
Well, what makes the Ford GT different from a lot of cars that might start at $30,000 is that you're paying for state-of-the-art equipment, performance, suspension, engine, materials. So we're talking about $140,000 worth of high-tech equipment. A lot of aluminum, carbon fiber, and different composites. A lot of horsepower for that money, and the best in-class suspension and brakes and handling. This car is our interpretation of the GT40. What we wanted to do is redesign the car, but the vehicle had to say GT40. It also had to be a very contemporary vehicle. If I could compare it to anything, it would be like an aircraft, a jet fighter. A plane like that looks the way it does because of the composition of different functional elements. And for some reason, it looks beautiful. And this has the same recipe.
The finished design of the Ford GT was unveiled in September 2003 to an adoring public. The Ford GT isn't just about style, it also packs a big punch. It has a V8 engine producing 500 horsepower, 5 times more powerful than a family four-door. It can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds. With a top speed of 312 kilometers, that's 194 miles per hour. The GT is a radical departure for a company better known for manufacturing family cars.
It was important that we did all the vehicles that were safe and good for the environment. We did those for years, and to me, those vehicles are like health food. You gotta have it. But it's time to have something more like this car, like a nice, juicy steak.
It'll take on exotic cars that go all the way up to $1 million. And it's got a heritage that just can't be beat. The racing heritage of this car, it's one of the greatest race cars of all time.
For those devotees who still prefer the original GT40 but can't spend $1 million, there's another option: build one. And that's exactly what Chris Notley did.
GT40 was the ultimate race car in my eyes, and I just love the way the car looks. I think it's a very special car. I remember seeing the cars race back in the late 60s, and like many people at that time, fell in love with the car. A lot of drivers of our era remember the GT40 because it set a whole new standard. It was the first car to win at Le Mans 3 times in a row, and it set a whole new design standard in the way that race cars looked. So it was very inspirational.
The GT40 may have seduced Chris, but financially it was out of reach.
I had a long-term love for the car, but never thought I'd be able to own one. The original car is certainly, for me, is unattainable financially. Certainly, without upsetting other members of my family, it's unattainable.
But Chris was determined to get the car of his dreams. In 1992, he got hold of a GT40 body shell, and over the next decade, he gradually acquired more and more parts until he finally completed his labour of love in 2003.
I have no idea how many thousands of hours I've put into this car. Suffice to say that the project has taken almost 11 years to complete. In terms of financial cost, I would say somewhere probably between $225,000 and $250,000. Every time I get in the car, it puts a big smile on my face. I'm sure you can put a smile on your face with a $40,000 car as well, but not in the same way as you can with this car. Also knowing that I've created it. There's a huge amount of satisfaction in that.
Despite being hailed as an American classic, the GT40 is not actually an American design.
Well, the Ford GT40 is actually a British design. It was designed by Eric Broadley of Lola, and the Mark I cars, of which this is an example, were built here in the UK.
Chris loves his car so much, he never wants to be parted from it.
There's a standing joke in my family. My children seem to think that at some stage in later life they'll get their hands on my car. And I've told them very clearly that I don't plan for them to do that. But they've pointed out to me that, well, maybe I won't have any choice. So I put it to them that perhaps if I were to be buried in it,
owning a super expensive car isn't just about acceleration and speed, it's also about status. And if it's status you want, look no further than the Mercedes Maybach 62.
Well, first of all, nobody needs a new Maybach. It's very much you're filling a need that the customer has that's much more than I need to get from my house to my office and back. A Honda can do that, our Kia can do that, any car can do that. When you get into the Maybach scenario, it's really a statement of what that person is like. It's like building a yacht or a custom home. That gives that customer's personality and displays it for everybody to see.
The Maybach 62 is more than just a luxury car. It's an opulent office on the move. Computer expert Dr. Kenneth Weiss was one of the first people in the world to buy one.
I like high tech, and I like having the newest and the best of certain things. It's a bit of a passion.
The car is German, but sells well in America. Dr. Weiss bought his dream car at the Maybach dealership in Boston.
I deal with the client directly rather than going through a salesperson because obviously their needs are very, very specific, very large needs.
If you are one of the few who can afford this car, then you get some exclusive service. Each car is customized.
This would be the new side.
Dr. Weiss has come to see Bernie Marino to discuss the details for his next Maybach.
There's no Maybachs in inventory. So it's not like walking into a dealership and they show you 3 red ones, 2 blue ones, and a couple white ones. Every car is an expression of that client. So as a result, they have to build it.
Okay, let's take a look here. We're going to see the whole package together.
So we have larger color samples, we have full leather swatches, and then we have an interactive virtual reality system that lets you go in there and say, okay, I want to know what it looks like in brown with a beige side. And then you can see on the screen, you go, oh, geez. I've had clients that were in there, and then they looked at that, boy, geez, I'm glad I looked at this. That's definitely not the color I want. It's much better for them to do that now rather than after they've paid $350,000 for the car and it's made.
No, that's not my style.
No, okay.
Yeah, the client who's buying a Maybach knows exactly what they want, which actually makes it easy from a sales perspective. Because they'll tell you, I want X, I want Y, and I want Z, and I want it at this time. So our job is really very simple. We just need to make sure we give them X, Y, and Z at the exact time that they specified.
The secret of the Maybach's appeal is that it's more than just a car. It lets you take your work home or anywhere you want.
I do a lot of business everywhere from Maine, New Hampshire to Washington, Philadelphia. And traveling in the car is a great deal more comfortable than on a plane. It's a lot safer at present. And frankly, I get a lot of work done while I'm traveling. And depending on where I'm going, I can even hold a meeting in the car and have some privacy. It's quite pleasant to be able to get in the car, continue on with what I'm doing, whether it be telephone or watching the news or working on the internet.
The Maybach makes sense to somebody like Dr. Weiss because he does a lot of business in the Northeastern Corridor. And in that car, he can be on the internet, he can watch his news show, he can rest, so he can maximize the utilization of his time, because that's the one thing that these clients can't duplicate is their time. They run out of it every day.
I think $400,000 is a great deal of money. If I look at what I am saving in various other ways, with the flights, with hotels occasionally, and the way I'm using it, it's very inexpensive. But I think the more important question is value. And because of the way this car has been designed and what Maybach has put into it, it in fact is high value, which is the opposite of my initial view. I really thought it was obscene in price, but was willing to go that route for the benefits. And after owning it, this car is great value and probably a bargain.
I live in the same world that 95% of the people live in, which is, yeah, $40,000, $50,000 car is expensive. But this car, I mean, the woodwork alone takes a month to make. It's just very, very well done, quality workmanship, and that's where you're getting in that vehicle.
The Maybach 62 is a very large car. It is 6 meters or 20 feet long and weighs almost 6,000 pounds or 2,720 kilograms. The car is packed with every gadget imaginable. As well as the TV and DVD, there is a glass roof that can be made opaque at the touch of a switch. There's even a solar panel in the front to keep the air conditioning and fridge running when the engine's not on. And for the ultimate in passenger comfort, there are reclining seats, just like flying first class.
The Maybach actually has a button that you can press at any time, and it gets you a Maybach representative 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who's your personal concierge. So if Dr. Weiss is in Hartford, Connecticut, and wants a recommendation for a good Indian restaurant, he hits that button, and somebody comes on the phone, and they keep a database of client recommendations, just like the concierge at the Four Seasons.
A car like the Maybach says a lot about its owner.
Driving up to a party in a $300,000 vehicle frees you from a lot of things. You don't have to be wearing designer clothes. You can be late. You can even have bad manners because you walked out of this car and all of a sudden you're on another plane, separate from most of the other people that you're around. The car explains it all.
Even in this elite world, some are more special than others. Cadillac has a head-turning new concept car. The Cadillac 16 is the most expensive car money can't buy. This prototype concept car has been developed by General Motors and is the only one in the world. It is literally priceless.
With this vehicle, we wanted it to be the ultimate Cadillac, to be the ultimate aspirational luxury sedan. Every part of this vehicle, inside and out, is about the beauty of engineering and the excitement of design.
Of course, it's difficult for a guy like me to figure out what somebody that's a millionaire might want for a car, but this is a car you want to be able to pull up at Pebble Beach in 20 years and still have everybody's jaw drop.
The design team were heavily influenced by the original Cadillac 16, a shape from the 1930s.
The classic vehicles of the 30s were all about proportion.
The low roof line, the high belt line, and the extremely long hood. And of course, the way the hood's open from the center is a cue that we pulled from the past.
We wanted to create this long dashed axle. We wanted to have the cabin, slid back to the rear. We wanted to have just the right attitude to the vehicle. We wanted, the way the forms accelerate off the front, and then it dives to the rear, sort of in a classical, sort of solution. But at the same time, the car's got a nice attitude to it, so there's a lot of visual energy to it.
While the car really, as a whole, is a piece of rolling sculpture.
Every aspect of the 16 is handmade and hand-finished. The dials, the hubcaps, and every Cadillac emblem on the vehicle, all specially cut lead crystal.
One notable feature on the side of the car is the fact that it's a pillarless hardtop, frameless glass, no B-pillar, so when the windows are down, you get one continuous opening. Even the side view mirror, we spent hours and hours designing this thing and detailing. And there's also the subliminal V there for the V16. Even the paint on this car, 20 coats of paint to achieve this finish. There's a black base coat and 20 coats of very thin pearl to give you this depth and read with the bright and the dark. I'd say just the price of a paint job like this alone is somewhere in the $50,000 to $60,000 range.
The Cadillac 16 is 5.5 meters long, 18.5 feet, and weighs 5,000 pounds, 2,500 kilograms. It has a 16-cylinder engine that generates 1,000 horsepower, nearly 8 times more powerful than a standard Cadillac. This unique car is handcrafted from a solid block of metal.
This bulkhead here was machined from one billet of aluminum. Started out to be 2,000 pounds, got milled away, and now it's about 85 pounds. It's the biggest piece of structure on the car that's one hunk. Every detail, the exposed fasteners, chrome 12-point fasteners, the machined off ribbing and high gloss black lacquer, all set off by the bright polished stainless exhaust header, which was painstakingly sculpted by one man.
The enormous engine is not just an exercise in extravagance. It features revolutionary new technology to reduce fuel consumption and lower emissions.
While this engine is quite large in displacement, it institutes a new technology that GM's developed called displacement on demand. It can selectively shut down cylinders. It can run on 4, 8, or 16 cylinders, depending on how far you push the accelerator pedal. And I think today's customer, even somebody that's buying a car as extravagant as this, would like to be somewhat conscious of the environment and fuel usage.
For the design team, it was a dream project.
There's nothing better than working on a concept car like this. I'll probably never have another one like this come along.
I think it's one of the most exciting vehicles that's ever been done, and to have been involved with with this is just, well, it is a dream come true. But my whole career has been a dream come true. Working in this industry, designing vehicles, and one of the last vehicles like this, what more could you ask for? I would love to have this car, and I would love to be able to drive this car. You could arrive anywhere in the world with this car and it would just shout, you know, the ultimate luxury sedan.
This is the Celine S7, a car that brings racetrack technology to the street.
The S7 is the closest car that has ever been to a full-out race car that's ever been legally put on the street, and probably will be the closest thing for quite a long time.
It is the brainchild of independent car manufacturer Steve Celine.
You know, everyone from a schoolboy on up at one point in time probably has fantasized about designing their own supercar and then actually having the opportunity to build it, let alone drive it as we are today. It obviously is very gratifying for me personally and for us as a company.
When Steve Celine decided to create the S7, he looked to his favorite supercars for inspiration.
We looked at a lot of various designs over the years, from Ferrari and especially the McLaren F1 being kind of the ultimate. We started with a clean sheet of paper. One of the criteria was no compromise on any performance aspect. So that meant acceleration, cornering, braking, aerodynamics.
He wanted speed and star power to hit the streets.
We brought in quite a bit of aerodynamics for a street car that have never ever been seen before on production street car. Very small cockpit area. The car's very, very low. It's only 41 inches tall. One of its major unique features that no other real street car has really done before is the car is 100% flat on the bottom. There's a complete flat carbon floor that fills in from front to back. The only places that aren't flat are in the rear. You can see we have a rear diffuser, and in the front, we have our front diffusers. And a diffuser is made to take the air that comes under the bottom of the car and accelerate it. As it accelerates it, it causes a low pressure zone, and that's what helps actually pull the car down to the ground. And it gives us an aerodynamic edge on any car that's ever been built for street production ever.
The whole car is hand-built in California. The chassis is constructed from chrome alloy steel and the body shell from a special carbon fiber developed in the aerospace industry. The body shell alone costs $100,000.
As we were designing the S7, one of our big areas that we wanted to hit was lightweight and strength, to try and get the best of both worlds into an area that no one had ever done before.
This combination of aerodynamics, strength, and lightness creates an unusual capability.
This car has more downforce than any other car that's ever been built for the street. This car is capable of driving upside down. If it's at the correct speed, it will literally make its own weight and downforce.
The downforce helps the S7 achieve stunning performance statistics. It accelerates from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3.3 seconds and has a top speed of 386 kilometers. That's 240 miles per hour.
Well, right now it's basically the world's fastest production car. So obviously its ability to go from 0 to 60 to well above 200 miles an hour is like no other car in the world. The ground effects allow you to enter and exit corners at a speed that your mind says there's no way a car or any object should be able to go that fast.
The Celine S7 weighs just 2,750 pounds, 1,250 kilograms, and its 8-cylinder engine generates 550 horsepower. The car has some unusual features. The aerodynamic design doesn't allow for a rear-view mirror, so the car has a rear-looking camera instead. But owning such a car doesn't come cheap. A new S7 will set you back $375,000.
It is truly an American exotic in every sense of the term. I love the look of it. It's scary fast. I've driven it, and it is really a high-performance car. It's very expensive, but a lot of people love it because it is such a big, audacious hunk of machine. Makes all the right noises, and it'll do a lot for that mark, I believe.
There's always been a huge amount of people around the world that have just an unbelievable passion for cars, and that's our customer. The people that just literally love their cars. They love to drive. They love looking at their cars. They're almost like works of art to them, the way they display them. And there's a good number of people around the world that will spend this amount of money that have this kind of passion for their automobiles.
There's a lot of pride in doing it. There was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in doing the car. It's an expressive car. It's an extreme car, and it's exclusive. It fulfills, I think, a dream that a lot of people around the world have shared.
At the other end of the design scale, some people's dream car is a little more traditional.
I think it's the most remarkable car I've ever driven. I've just spent my first weekend in it, turning a few heads and enjoying the drive.
The Phantom is the latest offering from Rolls-Royce, makers of some of the world's most famous luxury cars. Beverly Hills is full of supercars. Juan Garcia sells Rolls-Royce to Hollywood's rich and famous. He's been a fan of Rolls-Royce since he was a child.
Yeah, I grew up in New York when I was 13. I remember being on Fifth Avenue. I saw this Rolls-Royce rolling down the Ave, and I remember thinking, wow, what is that? It wasn't a taxi and it wasn't a limo. You know, now I realize it was a silver cloud. Beautiful, beautiful motor car.
Now he's in love with their latest model.
And obviously, when you look at this motor car here, the 2004 Phantom, when you look at it, doesn't matter if you're into cars or not. The minute you see it, you know it's a Rolls-Royce. It knows who it is when it's on the road, rolling down the street. No question. You look at this, it's a Rolls-Royce through and through.
It's this instant recognition that attracts buyers.
And this is designed for someone who wants the best of the best. They want to be exclusive. They want something that's a bit different, a bit unique. It's an extension of your personality. This car will get you noticed anywhere.
The car has already made an impact on Eve Bowen.
I love driving this car. I love spending time in it. You get a lot of smiles, a lot of people trying to pull up and take a look, thumbs up, they love it. Keep in mind, not many are in the country, so it's a big deal still to see the Phantom.
Everything about the Phantom is handcrafted from the finest materials. The seats are covered with hand-tooled leather, and the wooden panels are made from sustainable exotic hardwoods. The Rolls-Royce emblem, the spirit of ecstasy, even retracts into the car at the first sign of danger. Rolls-Royce's attention to detail even extends to an umbrella hidden away in the doors. But it takes more than just style and luxury to get buyers to part with $300,000. A Rolls-Royce must have great performance as well.
I know that I've got a tremendous amount of power in reserve, but it's absolutely effortless, so it's really an amazing car to drive. It can do 0 to 60 in 5.7 seconds.
The Phantom weighs 5,467 pounds, 2,466 kilograms. It has a 12-cylinder engine that generates 453 horsepower. But it harnesses this power in Rolls-Royce's own unique style.
Over the decades, Rolls-Royces have been called ghosts and wraiths and clouds and phantoms, like this one. And you really get a sense that it's quiet and effortless, but you know there's a tremendous amount of power and handling just waiting for you to access it. And that's what I love about it. It's about as different as it could be. It's very hard to get into anything else after spending a day in the Phantom.
Rolls-Royce has been the ultimate luxury car for many years, and it gives its owners a particular cachet.
Look at the image. If you have a person who comes in a Rolls-Royce, you get another person coming in a Ferrari, there will be two distinct messages that you're going to give. One is a sense of establishment, a sense of power, but also a sense of being conservative and cautious. The person driving in a fast, flashy car is coming in as someone who has money, but also maybe somewhat reckless and a little bit anti-establishment.
So, if you're more rock star than royalty, the choice is clear. Have a Ferrari. For those with money and rubber to burn, Ferrari has a supercar.
The Ferrari Enzo is today's ultimate exotic, no question about it. It's an extremely high-tech car. You wouldn't call it pretty, but the look is arresting and dynamic and very powerful. It's fast, it sounds magnificent, and they sold out instantly at over $600,000. You can't say that that's anything but a success.
The Ferrari Enzo is so exclusive, buyers had to wait for an invitation to purchase one. Currently, they're changing hands for over $1 million.
Oh, just to stand next to it and look at all the detailing. I mean, you can feel the Formula One connection in it. You can, you sense all the history that's in that mark, and the sound is amazing. It sounds fabulous from outside, and I've been in one. It sounds even more fabulous from inside when those intake butterflies open up and it just howls. I mean, it's an intoxicating car. They built 349 Ferrari Enzos, sold them immediately, and had to build another 50 just to satisfy demand. They probably could build another couple hundred and sell those just as quickly. But if they'd have built just one more, car number 400, I'd have me a black one.
One person to experience the thrill of owning an Enzo is lifelong Ferrari fanatic Terry Jones.
I feel absolutely lucky to have had this opportunity. To be able to buy a 660 horsepower, lightweight carbon fiber car with this kind of performance and technology is sort of like being able to buy a fighter jet. It is incredible. The sound, the fury, the brakes, the whole car does things that make you look like a professional when you don't have to be. This is the magic of the car. And what you see in here is really a masterpiece. Everything in it has been fabricated out of the best of the best. And as you can see, this is not a backyard, put-together, go-fast car. It works as an orchestra rather than as just an acceleration piece. The engine is a V12, 6-liter, producing 660 horsepower. These shocks that you see are horizontal as in a current race car, and they have these pumps on them so that when you go over an apron on a driveway, you push a button in the car, and the car actually raises up about 3 inches to go over whatever you have to go over. It's made for somebody who wants to really go fast and to use it on the track or use it on the road, but it's got it all.
The 12-cylinder engine generates 660 horsepower. The brakes are made from carbo ceramics, just like a Formula One racing car, and it changes gear in just 150 milliseconds. The Enzo can accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. And has a maximum speed of 350 kilometers, that's 220 miles per hour.
It's a really exciting car just to look at. The shapes, the forms, it looks like it's going fast in the garage. This is definitely a thrill ride. All the senses are visceral in this car. It has a sound that kind of zings up your back. It's awesome. It's almost impossible to keep your foot out of it. You're tempted at every 3 seconds to say, oh, I got to feel that again.
Terry's love of the vehicle proved infectious. When he took his wife out for a spin, she found the experience utterly exhilarating.
I was trying to show off a little, and I went through the first 3 gears, and I looked down, and we were going 138 miles an hour. And she giggled, and she says, oh, my God, and she was so buzzed from the whole experience. And she says, you know, that's a sexual experience. Wow, these Italians know what they're doing.
But the allure of cars like this goes way beyond sex appeal.
It's part of the DNA. It's burned into our hard drive. It's what drives people to build these cars. It's what drives a lot of other people to buy them. And I certainly know that I'm afflicted with it. There will always be a desire for fantasy luxury products, and cars may be the ultimate representation of that.